Have you ever been told that forgiveness is always the path to freedom? That to heal, you must forgive everyone who has wronged you, no matter how deeply they've cut into your soul. Perhaps you've struggled with this, feeling that something isn't quite right about forgiving certain betrayals, those that have fundamentally altered your life, your trust, your very sense of self. And in those quiet moments of reflection, a voice inside you whispers that some actions might be beyond forgiveness, not out of vengeance, but out of self-preservation and wisdom. The ancient Stoics understood something that modern self-help gurus often miss. Marcus Aurelius didn't write about blind forgiveness. Seneca didn't advocate for returning to those who repeatedly violate your boundaries. Epictetus never suggested that virtue means becoming a doormat for those who would exploit your goodness. Yet somehow, we've been conditioned to believe that universal forgiveness is the mark of strength, of enlightenment, of healing. But what if this idea is fundamentally flawed? What if, in certain cases, forgiveness is not a sign of strength, but of self-betrayal? The Stoics taught that virtue, wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance should guide our every action. And sometimes justice demands that we acknowledge when a line has been crossed that cannot be uncrossed. This isn't about holding on to anger or resentment, emotions the Stoics would certainly advise us to examine and release. Rather, it's about making clear-eyed decisions about who deserves a place in your life, about protecting your dignity, about honoring your own worth as a human being. It's about understanding that forgiveness and reconciliation are not the same thing, and that you can release the emotional burden of betrayal without inviting the betrayer back into your life. If you've made it this far, it's because something in you recognizes this truth. Perhaps you've forgiven someone who continued to harm you. Perhaps you've been told that your unwillingness to reconcile with a betrayer means you're holding on to anger or not healing properly. This message is for you. For those struggling with the weight of betrayals that seem beyond forgiveness, for those questioning whether their boundaries make them somehow less virtuous, less evolved. I want to show you that the Stoic path isn't about forgiveness at all costs, but about wisdom in all things, especially in how we respond to those who have proven themselves unworthy of our trust. You've been taught that forgiveness is always the answer, that holding boundaries against those who've betrayed you is somehow a character flaw, a sign that you're stuck or bitter. But the truth goes deeper. What you're really dealing with isn't a failure to forgive. It's a healthy response to violation, a natural protective mechanism that the wisest part of you has activated. The discomfort you feel isn't coming from your unwillingness to forgive. It's coming from the conflict between your intuitive wisdom and the social pressure to reconcile with those who've shown they cannot be trusted. Epictetus said, "Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens." Your power doesn't lie in controlling whether others betray you. Your power lies in how you respond, in the boundaries you set, in the wisdom you employ to protect yourself from further harm. The Stoics understood that while we cannot control the actions of others, we are sovereign over our own choices. And sometimes, the most virtuous choice is to recognize that some betrayals reveal a character so fundamentally flawed that continued association would be an act of self-harm. If this content is making sense to you, click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support. The modern interpretation of Stoicism often focuses solely on emotional detachment, the ability to remain unmoved by external events. But this is a shallow understanding of Stoic philosophy. True Stoicism isn't about feeling nothing. It's about responding wisely to what we do feel. It's about using our emotions as information, not letting them rule our decisions. When you experience betrayal, the pain you feel is information. Crucial data about boundaries that have been violated, about trust that has been broken, about values that have been desecrated. Seneca wrote, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." This simple directive contains profound wisdom about who deserves a place in your life. The Stoics were not passive recipients of others' actions. They were active architects of their social circles, carefully choosing companions who supported their pursuit of virtue. They understood that some associations are actively harmful to our character development, to our peace of mind, to our ability to live according to nature. Most people don't realize that forgiveness as we understand it today wasn't even a central concept in Stoic philosophy. The Stoics were far more concerned with justice, wisdom, and living in accordance with nature. They would find our modern obsession with forgiveness as an absolute virtue rather puzzling, especially when it comes at the expense of our own well-being and dignity. Now let's examine the 3 betrayals that, from a Stoic perspective, you should never forgive. Not in the sense of harboring resentment, but in the sense of allowing the betrayer back into a position where they can harm you again. The first betrayal is the betrayal of your core values. When someone knowingly violates the principles you've built your life around, your integrity, your honesty, your commitment to treating others with dignity, they aren't just betraying your trust. They're attacking the very foundation of who you are. The Stoics placed virtue above all else. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Just that you do the right thing. The rest doesn't matter." When someone demonstrates through their actions that they hold your core values in contempt, they are showing you who they truly are. Wisdom demands that you believe them. This doesn't mean you should burn with anger or seek revenge. That would be decidedly unstoic. But it does mean you should recognize that this person has revealed a fundamental incompatibility with your path. They have shown you that they cannot walk alongside you in your pursuit of virtue. A Stoic response isn't to pretend this revelation didn't happen or to keep giving chances that will inevitably lead to more pain. It's to accept the reality of who they've shown themselves to be, to wish them well on their journey, and to continue on your own, separately. The second betrayal is the calculated betrayal, the premeditated violation of trust. There's a profound difference between someone who hurts you through momentary weakness or error and someone who plans to deceive you, who weighs the costs and benefits of their betrayal and chooses to proceed anyway. The former may deserve another chance. The latter has revealed something essential about their character, about how they view you, about the place of honesty in their hierarchy of values. Epictetus taught, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." Someone who has calculated a betrayal, who has planned it, executed it with awareness, and perhaps even taken steps to conceal it, believes they know better than you what you deserve. They have placed their judgment above yours, their desires above your dignity. They have decided that their ends justify means that harm you. This reveals a fundamental lack of respect, a willingness to use you as a means rather than treating you as an end in yourself. Such a person has shown you exactly who they are. Stoic wisdom would have you accept this revelation rather than deny it. The third betrayal is repeated betrayal after reconciliation. When someone betrays you once, it may be a mistake, a lapse in judgment, a moment of weakness. But when they betray you again, after you've forgiven them, after you've discussed the harm done, after they've promised to change, this is no longer about them making a mistake. This is about them showing you exactly how much they value your trust, your boundaries, your well-being, not enough to change their behavior, even when they know the cost. Seneca wrote, "Fate leads the willing and drags the unwilling." When someone repeatedly betrays you despite knowing the pain it causes, they are telling you something important about their willingness to change, about their respect for your boundaries, about their capacity for growth. The Stoic response isn't to keep hoping they'll suddenly transform. It's to accept the reality they're showing you through their actions, not their words. This doesn't mean wishing them ill. It means recognizing that their path and yours must diverge for your own well-being and their potential growth. So what does this mean in practice? How do you apply these Stoic principles to your life when facing these unforgivable betrayals? First, distinguish between forgiveness and reconciliation. Forgiveness is an internal process of releasing the emotional burden of what happened. Reconciliation is the external process of rebuilding a relationship with the betrayer. You can forgive in the sense of not allowing resentment to consume you without reconciling. The Stoics would advocate for releasing the emotional burden while making wise decisions about who deserves your trust going forward. Second, pay attention to patterns, not promises. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." Similarly, waste no time arguing about what someone intends to do or be. Observe what they actually do. People reveal themselves through consistent actions, not through moments of remorse or grand promises of change. When someone shows you a pattern of betrayal, believe the pattern. Third, establish boundaries based on virtue, not emotion. Your boundaries shouldn't come from a place of punishment or revenge. That would be unstoic. Instead, they should emerge from your commitment to living virtuously. Ask yourself, what boundaries do I need to maintain my integrity, my peace of mind, my ability to treat others justly? What associations support my pursuit of wisdom and which hinder it? Let your answers guide your decisions. Fourth, practice indifference toward what you cannot control. You cannot control whether someone betrays you. You cannot control whether they feel remorse. You cannot control whether they change. What you can control is your response, your judgment about what happened, your decisions about moving forward, your commitment to your own values. Focus your energy there. Finally, choose associations wisely. Epictetus said, "The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best." After experiencing betrayal, be more intentional about who you allow into your inner circle. This isn't about becoming cold or isolated. It's about recognizing that our social connections profoundly influence our character and choosing accordingly. When you begin to apply these principles, something remarkable happens. The burden of trying to force yourself to forgive the unforgivable lifts. The internal conflict between what you've been told you should do and what your wisdom tells you is right begins to resolve. You start to experience a different kind of freedom. Not the false freedom of universal forgiveness, but the true liberty that comes from living according to your values, from honoring your own dignity, from choosing associations that support rather than undermine your well-being. This path isn't easy. Our culture idealizes forgiveness without discernment. You may be called unspiritual, unenlightened, bitter, or stuck. But remember what Marcus Aurelius wrote. If someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake in any thought or action, I shall gladly change. I seek the truth, which never harmed anyone. The harm is to persist in one's own self-deception and ignorance. The truth is that some betrayals should not be forgiven. Not if forgiveness means allowing the betrayer back into a position where they can violate your trust again. This isn't self-deception, it's wisdom. You will lose people when you hold this boundary. You will be misunderstood. You may even doubt yourself at times, but you will gain something far more valuable. A life guided by your own wisdom rather than others' expectations. Relationships built on mutual respect rather than fear. A sense of self founded on unshakable dignity rather than the approval of those who have proven themselves unworthy of your trust. Now I ask you, which of these betrayals resonates most deeply with you? Which have you experienced and perhaps struggled to forgive because something in you knew that true wisdom lay elsewhere? Share in the comments with the phrase Stoic boundaries. And let us create a community of those committed to wisdom in all things, especially in how we respond to betrayal. And don't forget to watch the next video where we'll explore how to rebuild trust in yourself after betrayal. Because the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with your own mind. True Stoic strength begins there. See you soon.